Welcome back to The Healthy Way. I'm Dr. Stefan. And today we're talking about something so simple it almost feels too easy to be powerful. 1 clove of garlic a day. Not a whole bulb, not a crazy detox, just 1 clove daily. And we're going to focus on 4 powerful changes you may notice in your body when you do it consistently. Now, I need to be clear from the start. Garlic is not a magic spell. It's not a replacement for medication you truly need. But it is one of the most studied, most respected traditional foods in the world for a reason. People have used it for thousands of years, and modern science keeps finding reasons why it matters. You've probably heard garlic is good for the heart, good for immunity, good for circulation, good for everything. But the question is how? What's actually happening inside your body when you take 1 clove a day? And why does the smell get so intense? That smell is not just a social problem, it's a clue. Garlic contains sulfur compounds that become active when garlic is chopped, crushed, or chewed. The most famous one is allicin. Allicin is created when the garlic's inner chemistry is triggered. That's why whole uncut garlic is not the same as crushed garlic. And that's why the way you take it matters if you want real benefits. Now let's begin with the first powerful change. Many people notice a shift in their circulation and blood pressure support. Not everyone feels it dramatically, but the body often responds in subtle ways that matter. When circulation improves, you can feel warmer hands and feet. You may notice less heaviness, less pressure sensation in the head, less throbbing after salty meals, and sometimes even better stamina when walking. Why would garlic affect circulation? Because those sulfur compounds can support the lining of your blood vessels, the endothelium. When your vessels relax and function better, blood moves with less resistance. That can translate into healthier blood pressure patterns over time. If your circulation is sluggish, your body pays the price everywhere. The heart works harder, the kidneys take strain, and the brain is less supported. I'm not saying 1 clove fixes all of that. I'm saying it can be one of the simplest daily habits that supports the system that keeps you alive every second. And if you never check your blood pressure, start checking it. Quiet damage happens in silence. In this series, I want you to become the kind of person who doesn't wait for a scare to start taking care of the body. Because by the time symptoms scream, the body has been whispering for years. In the next part, we'll talk about the second powerful change. What garlic can do for your digestion, your gut environment, and why so many people feel less bloated when they use it correctly. Before we continue, take 1 second to subscribe. Leave a comment telling me what you want to improve this month. And share this video with someone who loves natural solutions but needs them explained in a practical way. Let us go into the second powerful change you may notice when you take 1 clove of garlic a day. And this is where many people get surprised: digestion and gut balance. Most people think garlic is just a flavor, something you add to food and forget. But your digestive system does not forget. Your gut responds to what you eat like a living ecosystem, and garlic has compounds that can influence that ecosystem. When digestion is weak, everything becomes harder. You can eat the cleanest food in the world and still feel tired, foggy, inflamed, or bloated if your body cannot break things down properly. A lot of people walk around thinking they have a metabolism problem, when part of the problem is digestion. If your stomach acid is low, if your enzyme output is poor, if your gut bacteria are out of balance, you can ferment food instead of digesting it. That fermentation creates gas, distension, discomfort, and it can even affect your mood and sleep. Garlic has a reputation for helping the gut because it contains compounds that have antimicrobial properties. That does not mean it wipes out everything. It means it can discourage certain unwanted microbes from overgrowing. Many traditional cultures used garlic in food not only for taste, but for preservation and protection. In modern terms, garlic can support a healthier microbial balance. And when the microbial balance improves, many people notice less bloating and less heavy digestion. But here's the key: how you take it matters. If you swallow a clove whole like a pill, you might avoid the taste. But you might also reduce the activation of those sulfur compounds. You crush it and immediately swallow it. Some people feel burning or irritation. If you crush it and let it sit for a short time, that's when more allicin can form. Then you can mix it into food. Or mix it with something gentle. Some people do better taking it with meals, not on an empty stomach. Others tolerate it fine in the morning. Your body decides. Now let's talk about a very real issue. Garlic can irritate certain people. If you have gastritis, reflux, ulcers, or a very sensitive stomach, raw garlic can be too aggressive. If that's you, you don't need to force it raw. You can still get benefits by using it cooked in food, or using smaller amounts, or using it alongside other soothing foods. The goal is not pain. The goal is support. Another thing people notice is that garlic can change the way the body handles sugar cravings. And I'm not saying it's a blood sugar medication. But when digestion improves and inflammation calms down, the body often starts craving less chaos. Many people eat sugar because they are chasing energy or comfort. When the gut is calmer, the cravings can soften. So the second change is this. You may feel lighter after meals, less bloated, and more stable in your digestion. That matters because your immune system lives in your gut, and your hormones respond to your gut, and your skin responds to your gut. In the next part, we'll talk about the third powerful change, immune strength and inflammation. And I'm going to explain why garlic has been linked to fewer colds for some people, and why it can support recovery after stress. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Comment if garlic usually bothers your stomach, or if you love it. And share this with someone who thinks gut health is only about probiotics. Now let us get specific about benefits, starting with the most proven one, bone health. Vitamin D helps your gut absorb calcium and supports the normal process of mineralizing bone. If vitamin D is low, calcium absorption drops, and your body may pull calcium from bone to keep blood calcium stable. Over time, that can contribute to weaker bones. In adults, low vitamin D can be connected to osteomalacia, which is softer bone, and it can contribute to osteopenia and osteoporosis risk when combined with other factors like age, low activity, and hormonal changes. This matters even more as we get older. Around midlife, the body does not build bone the way it did as a teenager. If hormones decline with menopause or andropause, bone turnover shifts. Vitamin D becomes one of the basics you do not want missing. It is not the only piece. You still need protein, resistance training, and enough minerals, and you may need medical care depending on your risk. But vitamin D is a foundational piece for keeping bones resilient. The next benefit is muscle function. Vitamin D receptors exist in muscle tissue, and low vitamin D is linked with muscle weakness and higher risk of falls in some populations. Many people describe it as heavy legs, low strength, or feeling older than they are. Again, vitamin D is not the only cause, but it is one cause we can actually measure and correct. Then we get into immunity. Vitamin D influences immune signaling. People often interpret that as vitamin D prevents infections. The more accurate way to say it is that vitamin D supports normal immune function, and deficiency is associated with worse outcomes in some contexts. I do not want you thinking vitamin D replaces sleep, nutrition, or vaccines. It does not. It supports the system, but it does not replace the system. Now, let us talk mood. There is a reason people in darker months often struggle more, and vitamin D is one possible contributor, along with changes in routine, reduced outdoor time, and altered sleep. Low vitamin D has been associated with depressive symptoms in some studies, and correcting deficiency may improve mood for some people. The key word is some. If you have serious depression, you deserve full support, not just a supplement. So the benefits are real, but they are not a promise. They are a risk reducer and a foundation builder. When vitamin D is adequate, your body has one less problem to fight. Now we get into dosage, and I want to do this safely and clearly. For many adults, the recommended daily intake is in the hundreds of international units, not the thousands. For most people, ages 1 through 70, a common recommended daily amount is 600 international units. For adults over 70, it is commonly 800 international units. Some people do fine at those levels, especially if they also get some sun exposure and fortified foods. But here is where real life comes in. Many adults start supplementing because they already tested low. If you are correcting deficiency, the dose may be higher for a period of time, but that should be guided by your clinician and followed by a repeat blood test. The goal is not to megadose forever. The goal is to reach an adequate blood level and then maintain it. A practical, safe range that many clinicians use for maintenance in adults is often around 1,000 to 2,000 international units daily, especially in winter or in people at higher risk of low levels. Some people need more, particularly individuals with obesity, people with very limited sun exposure, or certain absorption problems. But once you start pushing higher, you should not be guessing. You should be monitoring. Now let us talk about the upper limit. For most adults, a commonly cited safe upper limit is 4,000 international units per day from all sources, unless a clinician is using a higher dose temporarily to treat deficiency. That upper limit exists for a reason. Too much vitamin D can raise blood calcium and cause serious problems over time. So what is the best approach for you? If you have never tested and you are generally healthy, it may be reasonable to use a conservative maintenance dose and focus on consistency and taking it with food. If you have risk factors for deficiency or symptoms that could fit, or a condition affecting bones, it is reasonable to talk to your clinician about a blood test that measures 25-hydroxyvitamin D. And remember this: vitamin D is not a quick feel-it-tomorrow supplement. It can take weeks to months to rebuild levels. That is why the plan must be steady, not dramatic. Now we are going to talk about contradictions and cautions, because this is where people get hurt. Vitamin D is safe for most people at appropriate doses, but there are situations where supplementing without supervision is not wise. One major caution is hypercalcemia, meaning high blood calcium. Vitamin D increases calcium absorption. If your calcium is already high, taking vitamin D can worsen it. Another caution is a history of kidney stones, especially calcium stones. That does not mean you can never take vitamin D, but it means you should be thoughtful, avoid high dosing, and coordinate with your clinician. Hydration, overall calcium intake, and blood and urine labs can matter. Another group that needs caution is people with certain granulomatous diseases, like sarcoidosis, and in some cases, tuberculosis, or certain lymphomas. In these conditions, the body can convert vitamin D into its active form more aggressively, which can raise calcium. That means even normal doses could potentially cause issues. That is you. This is not a do-it-yourself supplement. Severe kidney disease also changes the vitamin D conversation, because the kidney is involved in converting vitamin D into active forms. And some patients require specific forms of vitamin D under medical supervision. Pregnancy and breastfeeding are also times when you should not improvise high doses. Vitamin D is important, but dosing should fit your prenatal plan and your clinician guidance. Now medications. Certain medications can interact with vitamin D or calcium balance. Thiazide diuretics can raise calcium, and combining them with high vitamin D can increase the risk of hypercalcemia. Dioxin is another medication where high calcium can increase risk, so vitamin D dosing should be cautious and supervised. Some medications reduce vitamin D absorption, like Arlast, and some bile acid sequestrants, which can make deficiency more likely and complicate dosing. The takeaway is simple. Vitamin D is a foundational nutrient, but the right dose depends on your body and your medical context. The safer you want to be, the more you should respect labs, risk factors, and interactions. Let us talk about what deficiency looks like and what blood levels mean in a practical way. Many people with low vitamin D have no obvious symptoms at first. That is part of why it is common. Over time, some people feel fatigue, low mood, muscle weakness, more aches than usual, or frequent illness. But those symptoms can overlap with dozens of other issues, so you cannot diagnose vitamin D deficiency by feeling alone. The blood test typically used is 25-hydroxyvitamin D, many references. Describe a level of about 20 nanograms per milliliter or higher as adequate for most people for bone and overall health, and levels below about 12 nanograms per milliliter as too low. Very high levels can also be a problem, and levels above about 50 nanograms per milliliter are often considered higher than needed and may increase risk of harm depending on context. What I want you to hear is that more is not always better. People chase high numbers because they think it equals protection. That is not how biology works. Your goal is enough, not extreme. If your level is low, your clinician may recommend a higher dose for a short time to replete stores than a lower maintenance dose afterward. That is often safer than taking a high dose forever. If you do not recheck, you can overshoot without knowing it. Also, vitamin D is not working alone. Magnesium is involved in vitamin D metabolism, and low magnesium can make it harder to normalize vitamin D function. Protein and overall nutrition matter. Sleep matters. Sunlight exposure affects circadian rhythm in addition to vitamin D. So if you correct vitamin D and nothing changes, that does not mean vitamin D was useless. It may mean the bigger picture still needs work. I also want to address people who cannot use sun exposure, like individuals with photosensitive conditions. You can still have a strong vitamin D plan through food and supplementation. The solution is not risk. The solution is a safer route with appropriate dosing and monitoring. Now let us put everything into a practical routine that fits real life. If you are taking vitamin D, take it with a meal, preferably earlier in the day if you notice it affects your sleep. Some people feel more alert with it. Many people feel no difference at all. Taking it with food supports absorption, and that is the main reason I care about timing. Be careful with stacking. If you take a multivitamin, check how much vitamin D it already contains. If you also take a separate vitamin D supplement, add the amounts in your head. Then check fortified foods. The goal is not to accidentally push your total intake too high. If your goal is bone health, do not forget the basics. Resistance training signals bones to stay strong. Protein provides building blocks. Vitamin D supports the mineral side, but it cannot replace movement. If your goal is mood, go outside when you can, especially in the morning, because light exposure supports circadian rhythm and mood even beyond vitamin D. If your goal is immunity, sleep and nutrition still come first, and vitamin D is part of the foundation. Now, I want to speak directly to the people who have pain, fatigue, or chronic symptoms and feel desperate. It is very tempting to take high doses because it feels like doing something. I understand that, but high dosing without supervision can backfire. The safer move is to test, correct, then maintain. If you cannot test right away, stay conservative with dosing and focus on consistency and food-based support. And here is another key. Vitamin D is not an emergency treatment for a bad day. It is a background nutrient. When it is right, you feel more stable over time. That is how you judge it. If you want, in the next video, we can talk about how to read supplement labels, how to understand micrograms versus international units, and how to avoid common dosing mistakes. Tell me in the comments if that would help you. Let us wrap this up with clarity. Vitamin D matters because it supports bone mineralization, muscle function, and normal immune signaling. And it can influence mood and energy, especially when you are deficient. You can get vitamin D from sunlight, from certain foods, and from supplements. But most people who supplement should think in terms of steady, appropriate dosing, not heroic dosing. For most adults, a common daily recommended amount is 600 international units, and for older adults, it is commonly 800. Many people use a modest daily supplement for maintenance, especially in winter or in higher-risk situations. A commonly cited upper limit for most adults is 4,000 international units per day from all sources, unless a clinician prescribes more temporarily to treat deficiency. If you are taking high doses long-term without monitoring, you are taking a risk you do not need. Contraindications matter. If you have high calcium, a history of certain kidney stones, sarcoidosis, or similar granulomatous conditions, certain cancers like lymphoma or significant kidney disease, do not self-prescribe vitamin D. Coordinate with your clinician. Also be cautious with certain medications that affect calcium balance. Now, if you want a simple next step, it is this: do not guess. If you have risk factors, talk to your clinician about a 25-hydroxyvitamin D test. If you supplement, take it with food, keep the dose appropriate, and recheck if you are correcting a deficiency. If this video helped you, subscribe to The Healthy Way. Share it with someone you care about, and comment below with your age range and your goal: bones, mood, energy, or immunity. And I will tailor the next vitamin episode to what you actually need. Thank you for being here. I am Dr. Stefan, and I will see you in the next video.